Kale had never seen a sky like this. Two moons hovered above the horizon, pale and distant, casting silver reflections over jagged mountains that jutted from the ground like ancient teeth. The air was cold, yet charged, as if every molecule vibrated with secrets long hidden. His ship had landed on the plateau just beyond the city's borders, and from here the alien palace rose like a crown of crystal, glowing faintly in the starlight. He stepped out carefully, his boots crunching over the frost-kissed stone. He was not here for sightseeing. Kale was an explorer, a human drawn by rumors of knowledge lost to time, of artifacts that could change the fate of his world. And somewhere deep inside him, he felt the pull of something more, a sense of destiny that he could not name. The city below hummed softly. It was alive in ways he could not fully understand. Towers bent in impossible angles, lights shimmered without apparent source, and shadows moved with intent, never fully vanishing. He paused, sensing eyes upon him, though no one was visible. He shook his head, reminding himself that he was far from home and that imagination could easily play tricks in this strange world. Yet, as he walked toward the palace gates, Kale could not shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching him. And then he saw her. From the highest balcony of the palace, a figure stood silhouetted against the moons. She was taller than a human, her posture regal yet fluid like water in motion. Her hair shimmered in colors he had no names for, and her eyes glowed faintly like twin stars piercing through the darkness. Kale froze. His heart beat faster, but not in fear. Something else, curiosity, awe, and a strange warmth filled him. The gates opened before him, seemingly by their own will. He stepped inside, feeling the weight of centuries in the air. The halls were lined with carvings that moved subtly as he walked, telling stories of battles, loves, betrayals, and triumphs. He had read of alien civilizations that communicated through art and light, but nothing prepared him for the depth of emotion these walls seemed to convey. And then he met her directly. Lyris, the alien queen, descended the central staircase, her presence commanding yet not unkind. She moved as though the air bent around her, and Kale felt a pull he could not resist. Every instinct screamed that he should bow, run, or hide, yet he stayed rooted, unable to look away. Her eyes met his. They seemed to read him, not his face or his body, but something deeper, something hidden even from himself. Kale had always considered himself cautious, but in that gaze he felt exposed and strangely safe at once. "Human," she said, her voice melodic yet carrying the weight of mountains. "You are far from your world. Why do you come here?" Words which usually came easily to him failed. He managed only, I seek knowledge, artifacts, the history of your world." There was curiosity in her tone, and something else Kale could not identify. He wanted to ask more, to understand the depths behind her alien majesty, but before he could, she said something that made the world around him pause. "Are you single human?" The court around them was silent, statues frozen in light, yet her eyes held only honesty. I, he began, but no words seemed enough. The question was not simply about companionship. It carried weight, curiosity, and a spark of something untamed, something human. She smiled faintly, not cruelly, but with the quiet authority of someone who had waited centuries for something rare. Kale's pulse raced. He did not know why this question affected him so deeply. It was only a question, yet it felt like a bridge being offered across the chasm of worlds between them. The court murmured softly, though no one stepped forward. It was as if the question itself had held them at bay. Lyris continued her descent, her gaze never leaving Kale. "Your kind is fleeting, human," she said, her tone softer now, almost wistful. "Yet sometimes you touch more than just the mind, you touch the soul." He could run back to his ship, back to the comfort of what he knew, yet he felt an unspoken tether to this being, to this place. I do not understand," he admitted, "but I am honored to meet you, Queen Lyris." Perhaps she had waited too long for someone who would meet her as an equal, not as a subject or a pawn. "Very well," she said, finally breaking the spell of silence. "Walk with me, but know this: curiosity comes at a price, and the price of knowledge here may be more than your heart can bear." Walls that seemed alive shifted subtly as they passed. Light bent unnaturally, reflecting colors he had never seen. And through it all, Lyris guided him, her presence both comforting and daunting. At a balcony overlooking the city, she paused. Below, the floating lights of the metropolis shimmered like fireflies trapped in crystal. The twin moons reflected off the buildings, creating an ethereal glow that made the entire world seem unreal. "You feel it, don't you?" she asked. "The weight of centuries, the stories that cling to this place like shadows. You are not the first human to arrive, Kale, and you will not be the last, but perhaps you are the one who can see more than others. I feel it, but I do not understand it yet. Kale looked down to see a ripple of dark energy sweeping through the city below, tendrils of shadow that twisted unnaturally. Citizens scattered, some vanishing entirely, absorbed into the darkness. Lyris's face hardened, her hand resting lightly on the hilt of a weapon that seemed grown from the palace itself. "So it begins," she whispered. "The shadows have returned sooner than expected." "Will you stay with me?" Lyris asked quietly, her voice threading through the tension of the approaching danger. Kale nodded, though his mind raced. I will. I do not know what comes next, but I will stand with you." She did not say more, only turned to face the approaching storm of shadows. And for the first time, Kale felt he was not just a human in an alien world, but someone chosen for something far greater than he had ever imagined. The twin moons shone above, witnesses to the meeting of two worlds, two hearts, and a story that had only just begun. And as the first tendrils of darkness reached the palace gates, Kale realized that nothing would ever be the same again. Cliffhanger. Kale took a deep breath, gripping the balcony rail. The shadows were closing in, and he saw it clearly for the first time. Lyris was not merely a queen, but a force of nature. And if he wanted to survive and understand the strange pull he felt toward her, he would have to face the shadows with her. The alien queen's gaze met his, steady and fearless, and in that unspoken moment, Kale knew this world would test him in ways he could never have imagined. And he was ready to follow, no matter the cost. The city below hummed with life, even as the shadow tendrils retreated into the distance, leaving a lingering chill in the air. Kale followed Lyris through the palace corridors, each step revealing wonders he could hardly believe existed. Walls shifted subtly as they passed, revealing glowing inscriptions that seemed alive, telling stories of love, loss, and power in symbols he could not read but somehow understood. Lyris moved with a grace that was almost otherworldly. Her eyes, luminous and piercing, never left Kale. He felt as if every step he took, every breath he drew, was being quietly examined. The tension was not unpleasant. It was a magnetic pull that stirred something deep inside him. "You walk with caution," Lyris observed, her voice soft but carrying an unspoken command. "I sense curiosity but also restraint. You are not like the others. This world, it is unlike anything I have ever known." The plants glowed in shades of blue and gold, their leaves floating slightly above the ground as though untethered by gravity. The air was fragrant, carrying a soft hum that seemed to resonate with Kale's own heartbeat. "This is the Garden of Reflection," Lyris said, walking among the plants. "It is where I come when I wish to think, away from the noise of the court. But perhaps it is also where one sees the truth of another." Kale felt the weight of them, but he could not look away. He had seen many strange things in his travels, but nothing like her, nothing that made him feel so exposed and yet so safe. They walked in silence for a time, each step carrying unspoken questions. Then Lyris stopped before a fountain of shimmering liquid that reflected not only light but emotion. "Do you know why I am bound here?" she asked suddenly. Kale shook his head. "I do not. And yet I have waited for someone who might understand the cost and still choose to stay. I want to try ancient artifacts, texts, and memories that hold the history of my people." "You are sensitive to it," Lyris observed. "Most humans cannot perceive the depth of what is here. You can feel it. That is why I brought you. And you have chosen to be here. And their interest in you is more than coincidence. Prophecies, curses, cosmic destinies, these were not things humans spoke of lightly. And yet, standing beside her, seeing the sincerity in her alien eyes, he felt the truth of it deep in his bones. "What must I do?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Learn," Lyris said simply. "Understand, survive. And perhaps you will see that some bonds, though dangerous, are worth the risk." Lyris guided him patiently, answering his questions with care, revealing fragments of her people's history and their struggles against the darkness that had now begun to stir again. As night deepened, the twin moons hung low, casting a silver glow over the garden. Kale felt exhaustion creeping in, but also an exhilaration he could not name. Here in this alien world, with this queen of light and shadow, he felt alive in a way he had never known. They paused at the edge of a cliff overlooking the city. The lights below shimmered like scattered stars, and Kale felt a strange connection between the world beneath him and the alien woman beside him. "You have done well today," Lyris said, her voice soft, almost vulnerable. Most humans would have faltered or fled. But you have endured and you have seen more than others. I do not know if I am ready for what comes next. The darkness seemed alive, moving with purpose, seeking something or someone. Lyris's eyes narrowed. They are testing us, observing, learning. You are part of this world, whether you choose it or not. In that moment, words were unnecessary. He understood her completely, and she him. Something profound had begun, something neither of them could ignore. The city below stirred, the shadows creeping closer with every passing moment. Cale's pulse quickened, not with fear, but with anticipation. He did not know what trials awaited him, what dangers the prophecy held, or how deep his connection with Lyris would go. But he knew one thing: he would not turn away. And as the first tendrils of darkness brushed the edges of the city, Cale felt a quiet determination settle within him. He would stand beside her. He would learn. He would face the shadows. Because the alien queen had seen him, truly seen him, and had dared to ask the question that had changed everything. Cale knew instinctively that this was only the beginning of the trials to come, and that the bond between him and Lyris would be tested in ways neither of them could yet. The palace hummed with life, though the atmosphere was tense. Whispers moved through the halls like wind through reeds, soft but constant. Cale could feel it: curiosity, suspicion, and a silent fear directed at him. He was a human among an alien court that had seen centuries pass and survived betrayals and wars no human could imagine. Yet here he was, walking beside Lyris, and he could not shake the feeling that he was being tested. Lyris led him through the obsidian halls toward the throne room, her movements effortless, as if gravity itself bent around her. Cale followed, heart pounding, aware that every step drew eyes upon him. He had been prepared for alien wonder, danger, even prophecy, but nothing could have prepared him for the weight of courtly intrigue. "The court watches you," Lyris said quietly. "Some see you as a threat, others as a tool. Most do not yet understand that you are neither. That is why you are here." Cale felt suddenly small, as if the room itself weighed on him. And yet, at the center, Lyris radiated authority so absolute that it made him catch his breath. She took the throne, not sitting but standing, as if she were a force the room could not contain. "Cale," she said, her voice cutting through the tension, "you will remain close to me. There is much to teach you and much for you to see. But know this: power is a temptation, and you must resist it or it will consume you." She showed him artifacts of unimaginable power: blades that could split mountains, crystals that contained entire star systems, and stones that held the memories of fallen civilizations. Each object pulsed with energy, calling to him, tempting him with visions of glory and might. Cale felt his mind reel, the human desire for achievement clashing with the instinct to survive and remain humble. "You are tempted," Lyris said softly, reading his thoughts as if they were words on a page. "And that is natural, but temptation is also a mirror. It shows us what we desire and what we fear. And you are honest, Cale. That is why you endure. The enemy's spies have infiltrated the city. They seek you, Cale." Prophecies, curses, shadowed enemies. He had known his life would change when he arrived on this planet, but the reality was overwhelming. And yet, beside Lyris, he felt something steady, a thread of certainty in the midst of chaos. "We must move," Lyris said. "Come. I will show you a place where you can be safe, for now." The hidden chamber they entered was smaller, circular, and lined with crystals that reflected the twin moons. It felt like a world apart from the throne room, quiet and safe. Lyris turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Cale," she said, "this is where trust must begin. You have seen what is possible: the power, the danger, the darkness. And you must understand that your choices now will shape more than your own fate. Courage, honesty, and loyalty, these are the gifts that will carry you through, not power." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden flash of light outside the chamber. Shadows moved along the palace walls, twisting unnaturally as though alive. Cale felt a shiver run through him. "They are testing us," Lyris said, her voice steady despite the tension. "The enemy learns, adapts. And they will not stop until they understand your role, Cale and mine." Here beside Lyris, he felt capable of facing anything, even prophecy, darkness, and the weight of alien power. As the shadows shifted outside, Cale and Lyris prepared. They trained together, using both strategy and instinct, learning to anticipate the movements of unseen enemies. Cale discovered a strength within himself he had never known, a resilience fueled not only by survival but by connection, by the undeniable bond forming between him and the Queen. Hours turned into days. The palace was alive with whispered warnings and subtle threats, yet Kale's resolve never wavered. He learned the ways of the court, the balance of power, and the dangers that lay in wait. And through it all, Lyris guided him, not with dominance but with patience, insight, and an unspoken challenge that tested both heart and mind. One night, under the light of the twin moons, they stood on the palace balcony once more. The city below glimmered like a constellation, and Kale felt the strange, unearthly beauty of the world settle into him. "You have done well," Lyris said quietly. "Most would have faltered under the pressure, but you have endured and you have learned. That is why you are here. And you have that courage." Across the city, a dark figure moved swiftly, too fast to be human, gliding across rooftops as if drawn by purpose. Kale felt his chest tighten. "They are coming," he said, voice tense. Lyris's expression hardened, yet there was no fear, only determination. "Yes, and when they arrive, we will face them together. Human or alien, prophecy or choice, it will not matter. We are united." They would face the dangers of this world together, and in doing so, they would discover the true depths of courage, loyalty, and perhaps even love. Cliffhanger. A distant roar echoed across the city, followed by a sudden flare of crimson light. Kale knew instinctively that the enemy had made their move and that the trials of the prophecy were about to begin. Beside him, Lyris's eyes glimmered with determination and something else, something human he had never expected to see: hope. The night was heavy, but the twin moons cast their silver glow over the palace, illuminating every edge of the towering spires and jagged cliffs. Kale stood beside Lyris at the terrace's edge, watching the city below. The shadows that had haunted them for days were gathering once more, thicker, faster, and more dangerous than before. The eclipse had tested them, yet this was something greater, an oncoming storm that would not relent until their bond, courage, and trust were proven beyond measure. Lyris's eyes, glowing faintly, reflected determination and a quiet fear she seldom allowed others to see. "Kale," she said, her voice steady despite the tension, "what we face now is the culmination of everything, the prophecy, the curse, the hearts of our people. We must act, and we must choose wisely." I do not care about the danger." He had grown stronger, braver, and more aware in these past days, yet the enormity of the enemy, the prophecy, and the stakes left him feeling small. And yet, beside Lyris, he felt grounded, ready. The shadows surged suddenly, a wave of black tendrils stretching across the city, twisting with intent. Buildings quaked as they reached higher, attempting to breach the palace itself. Kale's pulse quickened. The battle was imminent, and this time there could be no retreat. "Stay close," Lyris commanded, her hands beginning to glow with radiant energy. "This is not just about strength, Kale. We must combine mind, heart, and courage. Together we can turn this tide." He had learned from her lessons, from the mirror of truth, from every test and trial. They were strongest together, and he trusted her with everything. The first tendril of darkness lashed at the palace walls. Lyris flared with power, light radiating outward to repel it. Kale moved instinctively, striking with weapons and tools she had trained him to use. Though human, his instincts had grown keen, honed by trust and guidance. Together they formed a rhythm, a harmony of human determination and alien power. The shadows responded, striking faster, bending, and twisting to test them. Kale felt exhaustion creeping in, but he pushed through it, driven by trust, courage, and the undeniable bond he shared with Lyris. Each movement was precise, every strike measured. The palace trembled under the power of their fight, yet neither faltered. Finally, a massive wave of darkness coalesced into a single shape, a shadow creature, immense and terrifying, eyes glowing red with malice. It moved with intelligence, aware of them, seeking to destroy, to divide. Kale felt his heart pound. This was the enemy, the core of the threat, the force that had orchestrated every challenge they had faced. Lyris stepped forward, her energy blazing. "This is it, Kale," she said. "We end it here, together, trust me." Lyris met it head-on, a radiant force of energy crashing against the darkness. Kale flanked it, using both his human ingenuity and the training she had given him. The clash of light and shadow filled the terrace with blinding brilliance. Tendrils lashed, sparks flew, and the force of the battle shook them to their core. Kale realized that the creature was more than a physical enemy. It was feeding on doubt, fear, and hesitation. Every second they wavered, it grew stronger. But they did not waver. They moved as one, Lyris's power amplifying Kale's courage and Kale's determination sustaining her focus. "You are stronger than you know, Kale," Lyris said, her voice fierce and clear over the roar of energy. Do not doubt yourself. The city below, previously tense and quivering under fear, seemed to breathe again. The twin moons reflected on the shattered fragments of darkness, casting a calm silver glow across the palace. Kale sank to his knees, panting, exhausted but alive. Lyris stepped beside him, her hand brushing his shoulder, grounding him. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it. Together, stronger than darkness." Finally, Lyris stood, extending her hand. "Come," she said, guiding him toward the mirror of truth once more. "There is one final choice. The curse that binds me, the prophecy, it can be broken, Kale, but it requires a choice from both of us." This time the reflection showed more than past and future. It showed their bond, intertwined, radiant with possibility, yet fragile. "The curse has kept me isolated," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "To break it, we must bind our trust, our courage, and our hearts. It is a choice, and it cannot be undone. I choose you, Lyris. Whatever it takes, I will face it with you." Light spread from the water, cascading through the chamber, illuminating the palace, the city, and the horizon beyond. Shadows that lingered in corners recoiled, unable to resist the radiance of their courage and bond. Kale felt a warmth spread through him, not just from the energy, but from the truth of what they had achieved. They had not only defeated the darkness, they had chosen each other, defying prophecy, fear, and centuries of solitude. Lyris stepped closer, her eyes radiant. "This is the beginning of something new, Kale, not just for me, but for us, and for the worlds that will follow." "Always." Kale and Lyris stood together on the terrace, looking out over the horizon. The night was quiet now, peaceful, yet charged with possibilities. The battles might not be over, the world might still hold challenges, but they were no longer alone. Together they had faced fear, prophecy, and the unknown, and emerged stronger, united by choice, courage, and heart. As dawn approached, silver light spilling over the horizon, Kale felt something he had never known, true belonging, not just to a world, but to a heart, a bond, and a destiny that he had chosen freely. Lyris's hand rested in his, their fingers intertwined. "This is only the start," she said softly. "But we have proven something important. Love, trust, and courage are stronger than any curse, any shadow, any prophecy." A new dawn had begun, not just of light, but of choice, courage, and connection. Cliffhanger ending. The shadows may rise again, the prophecy may evolve, but Kale and Lyris had discovered something timeless. Together, heart and courage united, they could face anything. And as the first rays of morning painted the sky, Kale knew he had found not only adventure and purpose, but a home within another's heart, a bond unbroken, enduring, and radiant.